Hey guys, so today we are going to talk a little bit about a subscriber question. And the question in question was, Frederick, how does non-profit work and freelance work stack up on a CV as opposed to having professional experience? So let's get into it. So basically, well, the short answer is that there's a world of difference for the most part. Now, I'm going to raise my finger and I'm going to say that it also depends a little bit about your overall background, but let me kind of elaborate on that first and foremost. You see, generally within software development, and especially at real IT companies, and when you do the sort of like more advanced development, like large scale systems basically, it's there's a little bit of a closed sphere and a very I'm not going to say very, but fairly established sphere of things that are viewed as valuable and not so valuable, or rather things that are considered to be the common case and not the common case. The common case within large scale systems development is that you usually have people who have some type of official education. It's not exclusive in any way. And it's usually the case that people have either a master's degree or a bachelor's degree, like they've studied computer science, something of this nature. Now, freelancers usually come from a self-taught background. They start out as self-taught people. And there's nothing wrong with being self-taught, but what you should be aware of is that when it comes to having work experience as a freelancer, you are very likely to find your CV or find your skill set less, at least perceived as to be less valuable. The reason is simply because you haven't followed you're not following the established way in which most of the industry perceives a software developer to come into existence. I mean, anybody can learn software development and get really good at it, and there are plenty of companies who will hire people who are self-taught. But you should be aware of that it doesn't weigh as heavy as somebody who has the same amount of years as you do, but has very well-established companies and an education background that feels very secure, because that's what it comes down to. It comes down to the likelihood that a person who does freelance work has the potential to be somebody that you want to hire. Because just think about it from the perspective of the company or the people who are doing the recruiting. I know that we're saying, and this is true, this statement, you may have heard it, that it's very, very, very hard to find developers. And the demand is absolutely massive. But what may have been left out of that statement is that this industry isn't looking for somebody who knows some basic coding. They're looking for people who are really good at software development. They're looking for really good programmers. And there is a very big difference between the two. The difference is very often, it's similar to a person who does some jogging in their spare time and somebody who does it at a professional level. There's a fairly big gap in between there. And considering how many people, if you think about it just conceptually, how many people are out jogging? Well, quite a few. And the same thing goes for software developers. There's a lot of people who have quote-unquote coding skills that try to go through the same processes as everybody else, and because there's no clear distinction on which skill, again, that's kind of the hard part. It's hard for the company to define what their standards are, and it's hard for the job takers to know, okay, what skill level do I have to be at in order to apply to this job. So that miscommunication basically leads to the company having to go through hundreds of CVs in order to find maybe a handful of really good developers. And because that is the case, it is simply saving them time to look at the people who have a really strong background in the things in the established way, or at least from the industry's perspective. Like if you have a official education, if you have a master's degree and you have worked a few years at a very well-established company, even if a freelancer comes in and has a bunch of projects on their CV, odds are that that person is going to be higher prioritized. just because they have a higher likelihood to have the skill set and be the sort of person that the company wants to hire. So basically it comes down to that. I mean, there is one exception to this rule, and that is that if you are a freelancer, if you already have the background, let's say that you've been working for a large scale company for years and years and years, and then you just decide that, hey, I really want to just go at it myself and I want to do that, that's fine, because you still have established a history of you have a history going through the official quote-unquote channels, the thing that makes people who recruit people feel secure, to feel that this is a person that has a high likelihood to be somebody we want to hire. So what I want you to take away from this is that although there's no really practical reason, there are tons of subjective things that we could consider when it comes to, all right, is a freelancer better than an educated programmer, and there are so many. It's very hard to say anything definitive about that. But what you should know in general is that security and trust is the thing that most companies opt for. They want to be secure in their sensation that a person is going to be productive, they're going to know what is required, that it's going to be a good time investment, because it is a big process to hire somebody, and especially to train them and do all that stuff. If they're going to invest in somebody, they want that person to be a very safe bet, and that basically means that anything that is considered to be less safe then what they perceive to be the safe thing is going to be less valuable. So as a freelancer, you are often a little bit of a wild card, but if you have well-established companies on your CV and you actually have an official education, that's a very safe bet. And that's what it comes down to. It doesn't have to do with skill, it simply has to do with what is most likely the safe choice. Have a great day.